Hello, in this paper slide video, I'll be discussing the Easton, Zinkivskay and Eacott 2009 paper entitled Recollection is impaired, but familiarity remains intact in rats with lesions of the fornix. My name is Tyler Ross, and I'm currently a neuroscience master's student, and I also have a background in psychology. In fact, two of the authors in this paper were my lecturers at Durham University. Let me start by introducing you to the idea of episodic memory. These are our autobiographical memories that we have, that typically include a spatial component. In essence, these can be memories like, what did you have for breakfast yesterday morning? Or, what was your last Christmas like? Tolving, 1983, defines episodic memories as memory which retrieves and stores information about temporally dated episodes or events, and the temporal spatial relations between them. The region in the brain associated with episodic memories is the hippocampus, named so after a seahorse because of their similarity in shape, and damage to this area can cause anterograde amnesia. This is the inability to form new episodic memories. The most famous neuropsychological case of this condition is HM. The main output from the hippocampus is a white matter tract called the fornix, and this projects to several surrounding regions in the medial temporal lobe and the frontal lobe of the brain. The first problem arises because the hippocampus is deep in the medial temporal lobe. Therefore, our current techniques such as EEG and TMS do not have the spatial resolution to reach and record activity in the hippocampus in healthy participants. So in come animal models, which raises the issue of a second problem. Episodic memories are argued by some to be linked closely to consciousness. This is the sense of mentally travelling back in time and reliving memories in one's own mind's eye, and or communicating them to someone else. And this is thought by many to be strictly a human phenomenon. Therefore, how do we know that we are behaviourally measuring episodic memory in animals? The truth is that this question is still up for debate. However, what we can do is identify the things, the components that make up episodic memory. We have what? What objects were in the memory? Who was in the memory? Then we have where. Where did the memory take place? What location? And finally, we have when or on which occasion. When did the memory take place? On which occasion did it happen? Was it maybe that one Christmas when the dog ate the turkey? Naughty dog. So now we have what, where, which memory, which is essentially the same as episodic-like memory. And there is a ton of evidence to support that animals experience episodic-like memories. For example, Clayton and Dickinson, 1998, used a clever behavioural task in scrub jays to demonstrate that the birds selectively store and retrieve food using what, where, and when, which is episodic-like memory. So, bear in mind episodic-like memories in animals for a moment. Let's consider again episodic memory. There are times when you're walking down the street and you see a face of a person you recognise. And sometimes you think, how could I forget that guy with the incredible moustache? So, you're certain that they are familiar, but you don't remember where they're from. And apparently this happens an awful lot more as we grow older. Yet now, you see a different face, and you instantly recognise who they are, and you recollect that memory. You call it to mind where you met and spoke to this person. Maybe one time at a party where they spoke endlessly about their boring financial job. So naturally, because you have that episodic memory, your frontal cortex kicked in and your motor-related cortices, and you run and hide from them because you don't want to be bored to death by their stories again. So, in summary, you have recollection memory versus recognition memory. And recollection is where you actually bring the memory to mind, whereas recognition, you're only recognizing an aspect of that memory. Okay, sorry for that long-winded introduction. Now you're up to speed. This is what Easton et al. Set out to do. They made a behavioural task to test recognition versus recollection within episodic-like memory in rats. They did this by harnessing the rat's natural preference for new objects, and then created lesions in the fornix and measured the post-surgery effects in these behavioural tasks. Using an E-maze structure, what, where, and which can be controlled. What will be the object, could be A or B. Where would be where the object is located, in the left arm of the maze or in the right arm of the maze, and then counter controlled. And finally, which occasion. Some rats are exposed to this phase, and some rats are exposed to a mesh phase. After these habituation trials, a critical test phase is produced. Remember that once these objects are down the side arms of the maze, it cannot be seen by the rat when entering the middle of the E-maze. When the rat enters the central arm of the E-maze, it has a decision to turn left or right. The rat is anticipated to turn a certain direction because if they recollect correctly, they will experience a new object that they haven't seen before in that location or context before. And this is what's measured, the rat's first turn towards an object. So now, a group of rats undergo a surgery to have a fornix lesion, and the behavioural task is repeated. There is also a second behavioural task, wherein two objects, the same used in the E-maze, are presented in an open field, and the rats are allowed to explore these two objects, and what is measured is the time taken to explore these objects. Rats with fornix lesions performed significantly worse than controls and less than chance in the E-maze task. However, in the open maze task, there was no significant difference between rats with fornix lesions and those healthy controls. So, what does this all suggest? It suggests not only that rats experience episodic-like memory, but also that damage to the fornix, the hippocampus's main output, causes a loss in recollecting memories, but not a loss to recognition memory. Where does it go from here? It is up to you to gather research and decide whether episodic-like memory in animals is essentially the same as episodic memory in humans. Is it just possible that humans have superior cognitive abilities, such as language and metacognition, in order to communicate and share those memories? Yet, the functional processes of episodic memory is an universal evolutionary adaptation. Moreover, the search for the so-called engram the neurological trace of memory is still ongoing. However, what Easton et al. 2009 contributes is compelling evidence that episodic memory can be measured in animals and is relatable to humans. And with developing scientific techniques such as virtual reality and optogenetics, it takes us closer and closer to the engram and understanding of episodic memory. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.